This is Smarter San Diego TV.
A child is trafficked every 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds.
Whatever sob story it is for that month, and then you start, feeling bad for them, and it's really hard to make a business decision.
I don't see where I got the disagree part then.
Okay, so you don't disagree.
So it's a no.
I want to play football or move to Hawaii and surf.
Good options.
At this point, it's anybody who's really bought a house in the last 4 or 5 years.
Our next guest is one of the top mortgage lenders in San Diego. Please welcome back to the show our good friend, Dale Entrekin.
There he is. Mr. Entrekin is here. Yeah. That was a home run ball from Matt Holliday, wasn't it?
That was not one I caught, though. Caught
You
me.
got a piece of it.
Yeah, I got a piece of it, exactly. Got a piece of me, too, on the way out.
Great stuff, man. Hey, great to have you here. This is something that really people aren't talking about. You remember the last refinance boom when there was like every other commercial on any TV show you were watching was you got to refinance now, Ditech, all that stuff that was going on back then.
All the radio, too.
The radio. Every commercial break, there was something about refinancing. We're not hearing that stuff anymore. It's really interesting. I don't know why, because it seems to me like right now is a time where people could really save a lot of money refinancing because property values are up, rates are still low. That's kind of the perfect storm for refinancing. Is there any reason why people, has something changed?
I think there's probably a little bit of maybe a little bit of hesitancy with what had happened prior. With the big refi boom in 2005, 6, 7, all those years when the market started to crash. I think people now are more geared towards thinking, I don't want to restart my loan. I don't want to do that. But I think right now is an excellent time because of the products that people got into initially on their loans with FHA, with mortgage insurance. Now I think there's just more opportunity.
Yeah. So if you have an FHA loan, you have mortgage insurance.
Yeah. For the life of the loan.
For the life of the loan. Mm-hmm. And so that mortgage insurance, isn't going to fall off once you get to 80% loan to value. Now with values up so much, so high, people can't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't believe it.
Well, we had recently a client buy a house, I think it closed in November up in Alpine, and it's up $40,000 in comps in the neighborhood with doing nothing to the property already this year. So that's not like standard across the industry, but there are great opportunities for people to get out. And he bought that house with a conventional loan, so lowering his rate wasn't really an option at this point. But looking at other people's scenarios when they bought with 3.5% down, you're able to get maybe even up to 20% in equity and refinance with no MI, no overlays, anything.
Yeah, right. So in other words, you can get a lower rate because the loan to value affects the rate. Yeah. So if you bought a home at 90% loan to value, but now you're at 80% because the value's gone up, you can take that adjustment off the table, which makes your rate lower, even if the rates have stayed the exact same.
Yeah, those are loan level price adjustments for Fannie
Correct.
Mae. And so with a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, they price you as the rate, as the loan to value based on your credit score. So if your credit score was 680 or 90% loan to value, you might have a much higher rate now if your credit improved and the market improved for you.
Right.
So you could have both. You could be really in the best of both worlds for yourself.
You could.
Yeah.
And that's just simply as a function of values going up.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that I've noticed this, a lot of people lately have reached out to us doing Windless Listing, our reality show. They're casting a lot of people into that, and people think their home is worth what they bought it for, maybe plus or minus.
Yeah.
But when you take a look at it, it's like, well, you bought this thing a few years ago. I mean, the market's gone up a lot, and it could be 100,000 more.
Yeah,
than what they're thinking.
It's been really incredible with where values are. I mean, right now, I saw a statistic yesterday that showed the median home price in San Diego County is now at 2007 levels. So it's actually a little above that. So 2007 was kind of the start of the recession, and where the value started to come down a little bit. 2005 was the peak. We're a little ways off from 2005, but the values are pushing closer. And so if that's the level they're at, there's definitely equity to free up cash flow monthly, whether it's to pay off bills or just to lower your rate in term, potentially maybe go to a 15 or 20 year loan, cut off some years off your mortgage. Had a client talking about that the other day they were about 10 years into their mortgage. They didn't want to start over, but we could lower their payment significantly. So they were kind of debating whether or not. So we talked about a 20 year, and they could actually still lower their payment on a 20 year and not lose that time.
Yes. There's a whole bunch of different ways to save money on this thing. Kind of sticking with the same idea of just property values being higher. lowering the mortgage insurance, even if you get the same rate. Let's say you have 4%.
Yeah.
You qualify for 4% again with no mortgage insurance. Well, however much that mortgage insurance is pure savings to you because that comes out of your net. That's not tax deductible. So if you have $300 a month in mortgage insurance, you probably have to make $400 at your job in order to pay a month to pay for that mortgage insurance. So if you take that off, that $400 that you're making now, you could stick right in your 401k.
Yeah.
You know, or some sort of pre-tax retirement account, and you wouldn't notice any difference in your monthly cash flow. That's a really big savings opportunity for a lot of people. It could be college fund, retirement, whatever.
Absolutely. The other thing too is there's a lot of people that are kind of thinking in terms of, well, we have this maybe an FHA rate that's 3 3/4 or something low, you know, kind of lower than what they could get on a conventional. Well, they may actually benefit both ways. They get a savings on the mortgage insurance piece when they refinance, but also get a little bit higher tax deduction because they get a little more interest on the mortgage too.
So you're talking about like someone who's got like a 375 FHA.
Or like a lower, like say somebody got 3.5, but they're refinancing a Fannie Mae that's just below 4% or around there or something. You're actually getting a little more tax deduction monthly or yearly. It's not a huge amount, but you're saving a little bit more yearly with it.
Yeah, I was going to say, so who would be a good candidate for refinancing right now?
At this point, it's anybody who's really bought a house in the last 4 or 5 years. Really, I mean, you're in a position where, you know, interest rates have dropped during that time. Right now, rates are as low as they've been. You know, we came up the last week or two in rates, come up a little bit, but it's still, I mean, the market's still significantly lower even than it has been in the last year. So, you know, it's like we talk about, don't miss the wave, don't miss this refinance wave, don't miss this refinance wave. There's coming an end of this refinance. Rates are so good, they kind of think it's going to be forever. It's not. At some point, rates will go up, and this is potentially the last opportunity to really save a significant amount.
And that might not even be the big aha situation. The big aha situation could be property values going down, because that makes such a big difference. In other words, for homeowners out there, you get to freeze your mortgage terms. It's like taking a picture. You get to freeze your mortgage terms based on right now. So if property values go down, if your home goes down in value $200,000 tomorrow, if you refinance today, your terms are fixed.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, you know, you're hedging, because owning a home is a hedge anyway against, you know, the costs of living, right? It's your way to hedge and ultimately own, and then you don't have to make a payment one day. That's the idea. So if you're trying to do that as efficiently as possible, then you want to freeze it. When you get your mortgage, you're freezing. You're taking a picture. You want to take that picture when the things are as good as possible. When home values are really high and rates are really low, that's the perfect time to take that picture. So if you have mortgage insurance, you've got to look at this.
Well, and the other option too is if you have credit card debt, the average interest rate on a credit card is like 13%, right? Because it's a riskier debt to the creditors. So it's 13.333, I think was the average. That means most people are probably like 20. If you have 20% credit or interest rates and 15% interest rates, those loans are going to be difficult to pay off if you have higher balances on them. If you got into a mortgage at 3.5 or 3 3/4 or somewhere in that range, you're just going to save yourself practical interest every month, right? And you're going to save that, and you should be able to save a significant amount every month because you're spreading it over 30 years, and you're lowering that debt.
If you don't want to start your mortgage over again, which by the way, you probably shouldn't, you should look at doing a lower term. You know, if you're 3 years into a loan, you know, do a 25-year amortization, or at least know what the payment is and amortize it yourself. Do a 20-year, do a 15-year. If you can pay, you know, about the same you pay now and lower the term, you're going to save so much money over time that it's crazy. I mean, there are tens of thousands of dollars, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how big your mortgage is. So lowering the term, lowering the mortgage insurance, these are all amazing opportunities for people to refinance now. I think it's great that we got the chance to talk about it today, because people just simply, it's just not out there like it once was. So there are people running around out there right now with 4.5%, 5.5%. I know, I've been talking to them.
Yeah.
They're out there. So we got to get the word out.
Well, that's what I had a client just recently. I was able to close his refinance, and he came into our office and he had a 6.5 interest rate. And I said, "Where have you been?"
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, like, what have you been doing? How do you have a 6.5 rate?
Dale, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Don't be that guy. If you got 6.5%, give Dale a call. He'll save you some money. Why not? Why pay the bank extra money if you don't have to? Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guest is our go-to guy in Golden Hill and the owner of Lepe Tendwell Properties. Please welcome back to the show, Voltaire Lepe.
There he is. Voltaire's in the house.
Hi there.
What's up, man?
Nothing much.
So today, this is interesting because today we're talking about tips for landlords, right? So we talk about real estate all the time, but this is tips for landlords. You do property management as well at Lepe Tendwell.
Yes.
And you've got a report that you're going to give out for free. 10 tips?
10 tips to manage your property and increase the value.
And increase the value.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that sticks out to me because I think most people assume, you know, if I'm going to turn a house into a rental, that it's going to get dilapidated, it's going to be devalued by the tenants. But you've got tips to help prevent that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the last 14 years I've seen a lot of properties. I've met a lot of property owners, and one thing that I see a lot of is property owners not being able to maintain or appreciate, you know, their property as far as the value, just because they're not managing the property correctly. And, you know, it takes a lot of years, a lot of experience in trying to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, definitely does. So we'll give as many tips as we can today in the short time that we have, and then if anyone wants the free report, we'll have the information on the screen so that they can get that.
Yeah, for sure.
So first one, obviously tenants. The tenant, you know, I guess how you select them. What about the tenants do people need to know?
Yeah, so the biggest part, the biggest part about property management is the tenant selection. Okay, if you could get this down pat, if you could get it right the first time, then your life's going to be a lot easier. Your property is going to maintain and increase in value in the future. So, you know, a couple things. Like, for example, you probably shouldn't rent to people that you know. Okay, you probably shouldn't rent to...
Should not rent to people you know.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't rent to, like, family or friends, because if you think of it, for example, if you rent it out to, you know, your cousin, and your cousin misses a payment or is late all the time, I mean, are you really going to go to your cousin and serve them a 3-day notice, right? Or a buddy of yours? Are you going to risk that relationship? Because at the end of the day, most property owners, they don't own the property free and clear, right? And that's a misconception that a lot of tenants have. Oh man, he's rich, he owns the property, and you know, he's making all kinds of money off me, and I'm only late a few days. But, you know, as property owners, we have bills to pay too, right? So at the end of the day, are you going to risk you being late on your mortgage just because somebody that you know, you don't want to give them that notice? The other thing too is you should probably have some criteria that you base your tenant selection on. You know, a certain FICO score, a certain income level, maybe 3 times gross rent, and no eviction history. So you should probably have a criteria. That way, when you get applications, it's easier just to, you know, shift and sort through the applications and just push them out the way, and then just get to the people that you want to, you know, place in your property.
I think what happens to some people is that, not in this market. In this market, you know, if you put an ad out there, you're getting a lot of people.
Right.
But in a lot of markets, you know, they'll stick an ad out. Here's, you know, I want to rent my place. And it's a week and nobody calls. And then all of a sudden they get a call and they're like, oh gosh, I hope this is the guy, right? Because I have to make that payment. I want him to make it for me.
Right.
And so they start to look through with, you know, those, we call them beer goggles. That's what a guy calls it. You know, you look at it, you start seeing this application and you go, oh, that's okay, I believe him.
Right.
Oh, he's got a bad credit score. That's okay, I believe him. That's not his.
Right.
And you just want to get the lease signed.
Exactly.
So you got to be careful of that.
Yeah, and you know, the other issue with the tenant selection process is if you choose the wrong tenant, and they know who you are, they know you're the owner, you know, you start to hear sob stories. Oh, you know, this happened, you know, my car broke down, or whatever sob story it is for that month, and then you start, you know, feeling bad for them, and it's really hard to make a business decision and the best decision for yourself and your family, and say, hey, look, sorry about your bad luck or whatever, but here's a notice. You have 3 days to pay rent or to get out.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be comfortable doing that with whoever you select.
Exactly.
No question. What about the rent? What advice do you have for people in that regard?
One thing that you need to track and always have a pulse on is the rental market. Okay, you always want to know what the area is renting for. The Union Tribune came out with an article a couple weeks ago that said that the average rent per unit increased about $150 a month.
Over the year?
Over the year.
Wow.
Right? So from last year to this year, $150 increase. Now, most landlords, most property owners don't know that. And the ones that do, they're probably not going to raise the rent on the tenants, right? But at the end of the day, you're doing a disservice as far as like the value of the property and the future of the property, because when you go to refinance in the future, guess what the value is going to come back at. If the rent isn't at market value, it's probably going to come a little bit less. Or if someone comes to purchase your property, and let's say you have multi-units, like little apartment building or something, and they're not up to rent a market rents, then the next buyer is going to pay you less for that property. So you're really doing yourself a disservice, your future self a disservice. At the same time, some landlords, they strike deals with tenants. They say, hey, look at, I'm cutting you a deal on the rent, so just don't call me and bother me with anything, right? I mean, I see it all the time.
Yeah, so if you have a garbage disposal issue, don't call me. We're giving you this lower rent. But there's some other risks to that too, right?
Right, exactly. Because if you have side deals with the tenants where, I've ran into landlords where they say, oh, you know what, I have great tenants, they never call me for anything, and I ask them about the rent, and they say, well, I haven't increased it in 10 years just because, I have a really good thing, I don't have to worry about it. And they manage the place themselves. What we come to find out is that the property has a lot of maintenance issues, right? It's not in the best shape. And the other thing about side deals is the tenant can never waive their right to a habitable unit, to a safe unit, to a clean unit. So if there's mold issues and there's different maintenance issues, I mean, really it's the manager who happens to be the landlord. It's their responsibility to take care of it. No matter what side deals you have, the tenant can never waive, those type of rights that they have. So for example, if you get a call from a tenant and they say, hey, look, we have mold growing, it's the landlord's responsibility to take care of it right away, and then later they could determine whether it was a tenant's fault, and then they could send them the bill for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're the landlord, don't say, oh, that's your fault.
Right.
Because they are liable for that.
Exactly.
Potential damage.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll leave you with the rent is make those increases, as you see fit. Check the market rent at least once a year.
Voltaire, one of the tips, because I've got a sneak peek at this.
Right.
Of course, everyone, you can get your free copy of this top 10 tips just by following the information on the screen. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the month-to-month leases versus term leases. You have a tip in there about that. Can you give us a sneak peek on that one?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of property owners, a lot of managers, they prefer long-term leases, 12-month or 2-year lease. And whenever I meet with property owners, they say, hey, look at, I prefer this 1-year or 2-year type of agreement with the tenants because I'm guaranteed the rent. Now, from my experience and the way that I see things, I prefer, as a property manager, I prefer getting everybody on a month-to-month rent. And the reason is because on a long-term lease, on any type of lease, the tenant has more rights than you, the property owner. Right? So, for example, if you rent it for a 1 year to a tenant and then right off the bat they're late on the rent all the time, you start seeing red flags because you drive by and they have all kinds of stuff in the front lawn and the property isn't looking as good, and they start calling for different things and just kind of they're a nuisance to you, right?
A PETA?
A PETA.
Yeah. Pain in the ass.
Yeah. So let's say they're that. If you're on a lease with them, you can't get them out. The only way you could get them out is if they stop paying you rent. But other than that, you just have to live with it for the rest of the year, the rest of the 2-year remaining, whatever's remaining on the lease, as opposed to a month to month. If you start seeing red flags right away, you can just give them a 30-day notice and go find yourself another tenant.
Wow, that's already a bunch of great stuff. That's only a few of the top 10 tips. So make sure you reach out with the information on the screen to get your free copy of the top 10 tips for landlords to help keep their property value increased, which is a difficult thing to do for most people. Voltaire, thank you so much for your time and for all the stuff that you do for the show.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guests are joining us for the first time. Please welcome financial advocates from Penn Mutual, Wendy, Lyon, and Tari, Watkins. Hello.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
What, no standing ovation?
That's for the crowd. The crowd, all those people. So financial literacy. I've been doing financial advocacy on the radio for a long time now on TV, so I really appreciate what you guys are doing. It's so important. People are learning by making mistakes these days. That's pretty much, you know, and sometimes that's a good way to learn a lesson, but it's a very hard way to learn a lesson.
Sometimes it's too late when you learn that
And
way.
that's the problem. You know, I feel lucky because I was young when I started making my financial mistakes. So I had a chance to get back.
Right.
You know, I had plenty of time. A lot of people don't. So I have a lot of questions for you guys. And I know you have a big event and there's a lot of purpose behind that. And I want to get to all that stuff. First and foremost, there are a lot of, I wish you would talk gurus out there, right? They're on big network television stations and they're on the radio. They're gurus. What do you think about some of the gurus out there, or for people who are following those gurus and their advice? Is it always right? Is it a good thing to do? What do you think?
Well, there's a major flaw in that advice in that it's very linear, for one thing, where they just say, take a death benefit, invest in a good mutual fund, earning 10% forever, and you've just replaced your husband's salary. I'm giving you the short version. But they don't include taxes, inflation, technology, or maybe your home isn't paid off, or you thought your kids were going to go away to college and stay away and they're living back at home with you. So it doesn't work in real life. And that's the problem, is it all sounds great on paper, but we don't live on paper. We live in reality and life happens. And like you've learned the hard way, that's one of my taglines, is I learned the hard way so you don't have to. So it's our job to help you avoid those pitfalls and go, this is what could really occur. So we do full disclosure financial decisions where we put reality into it and stress test it to make sure it's going to stand up under any circumstances, not just the best circumstances.
I think what you're saying is the summary of that is anytime someone says do this specific thing, it's a generalization.
Yes.
In other words, everyone can just do this and it'd be fine. That's kind of a red flag.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and if you could find me a mutual fund that's going to pay 10% forever, please fill me in. Seriously.
Well, it's going to average out.
Yeah.
You know, it's
never gonna lose anybody.
yeah. It'll never go down, ever.
Well, since 1930, the market's made this much money.
I know. I just saw an article the other day, in the past 16 years, the S&P is only, the compound average is less than 2%.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
And you can do the same calculation with real estate too. Nationally.
Right.
In San Diego's a little different, but nationally you can make the same case for real estate over a really long period of time, 2%,
Right.
which doesn't, combat inflation or inflationary rates.
Doesn't pencil out, does it? In the
Yeah,
end?
it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So gurus then, as far as that's concerned, we were going to name names. I'm going to stay away from it.
you're going to stay away from some names?
I did enough name bashing in the radio days. So, it was like I just talked like no one was listening back then. We had about 80,000 viewers a week on this show.
Right.
So
Just don't drink the Kool-Aid. We'll just say that. Just don't drink the Kool-Aid.
don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. And know that generalized advice is just that, in general, which means it could be good for you or it could not be good for you, just as equally.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It could equally be good or bad for you. So therefore, it's kind of pointless. Right?
Well, and if it is bad for you, what recourse do you have?
None.
Do you get to go find them and go, hey, I listened to your advice and I'm living out of a shopping cart at 77 years old, so now what? I mean, what recourse do you have?
I think there's a whole lot to be said for this, because although people are living a lot longer, and people are working longer, but we're living longer than we're working longer. So that ratio has started to cause some real problems.
Well, what if Social Security isn't there anymore? What if
Won't be there.
doesn't hold up?
I'll tell you right now, it won't be there.
Yeah, there's a cliff. And if people aren't planning today for that cliff, there's going to be a lot of homeless people.
Yeah.
Because there's no funds there to take care of them.
If you took it away today, it would create a major, major problem.
Oh,
No,
my word,
definitely.
yeah.
A major, major problem.
My parents are living on Social Security.
Totally. A whole bunch of people are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Millions and millions of people are. And that's okay, because that's how, their life was structured and what was expected and
Right.
what they were promised was
Yep.
this. They didn't have a lot of the things that we have today. They were told everything was going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, take a look at, people, for the majority, millennials, Beck, for example, your generation,
Not guaranteed.
you don't have anything guaranteed. In fact, cost of living is through the roof, cost of education is through the roof. You guys are really catching the wrong end of the stick here, to be honest with
Saving my
you.
pennies now. Right?
Seriously, dead serious. I mean, it's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So I think, not necessarily listening to the gurus. The gurus aren't preaching gospel here. It's not necessarily true.
Right.
And especially not necessarily true for you. But you guys have a great purpose behind what you're doing, not just providing financial advice or full disclosure financial advice like you were talking about. You've got a big event coming up here soon, and I want to take the time to promote it because I think it's a really important cause. Who wants to talk about the event?
Wendy, it's actually really close to her heart, and I took on to co-host the event with her because how much she is very passionate about it, and I've become passionate about it too. So she's probably the better one if we can keep her from crying.
It's okay. It's okay. You can cry.
Okay. All right. Well, the event, it's really twofold because the New Year, New You movement was really created to empower women, although we won't turn men away, so you can come.
Okay.
But so it's twofold. So one part of it is to really achieve balance in your life. You know, a lot of people struggle with balance. So maybe your career's taking off and your career is thriving, but your personal relationships are suffering, or maybe your business is expanding, but so is your waistline, and maybe you know everything else is golden, but you need help planning your financial future. So this is a way to just come and get a holistic view from experts in all their fields to speak into your life in all these areas, personally, professionally, business-wise, mentally, emotionally, physically, all in one day. But the best part is that all the proceeds will go to rescue children from human trafficking. So
Which is a huge problem out there.
Huge. A child is trafficked every 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds. So in the time that we've done this segment, what is it, 8 minutes? That's 16 children that have been trafficked for sex. When you look at it like that, and it happens day after day after day, it's mind-boggling. But you know, I always say the only thing needed for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing. So you may not be able to save 1,000 lives, but can you save one?
Yeah.
You know, can you come and save one? So our goal is to save 50 lives at the event, and hopefully we'll save more. And we'll have more events and try to make an impact on it. But if we just sit back and go, well, it's too big to deal with, that does nothing.
Or it's not happening here by the way it is.
Right. And if it was your life that was saved, how much would that matter to you?
Yeah.
You know, if it was your child, you would give anything to get that child back.
These children are defenseless for the most part,
Yeah.
you know, in these situations. And if you don't think this is happening right here, call the district attorney.
For
Call
sure.
Call the FBI. Ask them.
I know
Right.
what's happening here.
Yeah, it's happening.
Right. Well, we're going to have someone from the San Diego Human Trafficking Task Force speaking at the event.
You are.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So they will be there.
Well, let's get to some of the deets. So it's May 14th,
Yes.
Yes.
so right around the corner.
Yeah.
Where are you guys going to have this at?
The Horton Grand downtown.
Downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right there on 4th and like
It's on Island Avenue,
an island.
Yeah.
311 Island Avenue.
Okay.
But they have valet parking, so
Between
don't worry
third and
about getting in and out and all that kind of good
Yeah.
stuff. There's parking all around, and we're going to have lunch, vendors, wonderful networking, amazing people, really amazing people. No, all the speakers are volunteering their time. Everybody's volunteering their time so that we can give the most to the kids. So it's pretty amazing. And we have speakers flying in from Colorado. We have people flying in from Connecticut to come. So yeah. So please come. It's going to be awesome. And we have the most amazing sponsors that we're up to over $90,000 in giveaways.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So for a $97 ticket, the first 100 registrants will get a $750 swag bag.
That is
Now,
incredible.
that's over 750% return on your investment in less than 30 days. So if I was doing that with real money, you'd be throwing not $97 at me, but like $97,000 at me. Okay, going, here you go.
Feel free to do.
Yeah, you're free to do that too.
We have a lot of kids. If you
Yeah, we could help tons of kids.
could.
For $128, you can actually reach, rescue, and restore a child.
$128.
$128.
So that's the magic
They'll
number.
actually, because the proceeds are going to Life Outreach International, so they'll actually go in, get a child, put them in a home, clothe them, feed them, and get them back to the life that
This is
they
amazing work
deserve.
that you guys are doing. Really, really appreciate it. So necessary. Please contribute if you can. If there's any way, if you can make the event. Are there other ways to contribute? I'm assuming if people can't
They
make
could
the
go
event.
online to nyny2016.com, and it'll link you over to Eventbrite, and you can just make a donation if you'd like to. That'd be fabulous.
Want to save a
And
child?
there's-
$128.
Yeah, and there's sponsorships there available too. So
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time. Really appreciate it and all the good work that you're doing.
Thank
Thank you so,
you.
so much.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guests are joining us for the first time here on the orange carpet. Please welcome to the show cast member on episode 2 of Win This Listing from Mission Realty Group, Marsi Sampson, and her special guest, the founder of Team Parker for Life, Crystal Shaw, and her son, Parker Shaw.
Hey, welcome to the show, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Marcy, I just, cameras, me, you, it's just,
Keep meeting like this, right?
we're going to have a coffee one day without any cameras around, I promise.
Okay, good. Looking forward to it.
This is great. Now, you wanted to bring on the Shaws today. Tell us why.
Guy, you know, a true inspiration to me and our community. How can we help this charity, you know, get the word out to Team Parker? So I couldn't think of anybody else to bring in and welcome. So
I know this has touched you because from the moment you started talking about it, you know, way back when we were shooting Win This Listing, you're like, oh, I've got a really good guest, you know, that we're bringing on the show. So Crystal, tell us about, you know, what is Team Parker for Life? How did all this happen?
Team Parker for Life is a foundation we started in 2013 after my son Parker right here was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma, which is a severely underfunded cancer. And we just felt the need after we saw the amount of outreach we had for our family to let us stay home and be with our sick child and our other 2 daughters, that we wanted to do the same for other people. So our mission with Team Parker is just to help as many families that their children are facing cancer and to financially assist them, and also just to raise awareness for pediatric cancer and to get as much funding that we can get. It needs it. It gets less than 4% of the national budget for cancer altogether, which is pennies pretty much.
So is the foundation about that particular, what did you say, neuroblastoma?
Neuroblastoma. We help all the kids with all cancers. That's my biggest drive, obviously, because it affected our life the most, but we help anybody who applies who has a child with childhood cancer of any kind.
What is neuroblastoma?
So neuroblastoma is a type of cancer that arises in your immature nerve cells. So basically it can be anywhere in your body, but most commonly the solid tumors are usually found in your abdomen or chest. And Parker's particular tumor was above his left kidney on his adrenal gland, and usually by the time you find it, it's stage 4 because it really has no symptoms. So until he was injured on a rope swing, we had no idea that anything was wrong, and then just the pain got more severe, and he got a fever and was complaining on and on that his hip was hurting, and finally took him into the doctor just because it wasn't going away, and that's how we found out he had cancer.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Parker, do you remember any of this, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do? What was that like? You could tell something was wrong, couldn't you?
Yeah, it hurt just at night.
Just at night when you're trying to sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough, huh? So when you know, you were telling your mom that it was hurting, obviously she believed you, right? But you guys didn't know what was wrong. When they took you to the doctor and they told you you had cancer, did you know what cancer was? Never heard of it before, huh?
No.
Do you know what it is now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty tough stuff, huh? So how did you beat it, man?
I don't know.
Super brave.
That sweet smile.
Well, what did you have to go through? So they found out you had cancer and you don't have it anymore, right? So something had to happen. So what happened in there?
What kind of treatments did you do?
I did 3 of 8. I stayed in the hospital a lot. Chemo. I lost my hair. I got worried because they said it would come back curly or green. And I didn't want either of those things.
That's funny. So it sounds like you did everything. I mean, you just kind of have to do everything, right? So the kitchen sink edit, is that kind of what the deal is?
Yeah, so the type of cancer he has a greater than 60% relapse rate, and the chance of survival at relapse is less than 10%. So obviously your goal is to try to hit it hard the first time so that it doesn't return. Generally, the first 2 years after treatment, the kids do fairly well if they make it through the treatment, but then a lot of kids relapse at about 2 years of time. So we're at 26 months right now, cancer-free.
Wow. And so how
Parker's
often now
doing
does he
great.
have to go back and check in on that? I mean, you got to check on it pretty.
Yeah, so this is the first time we've ever gone 6 months without checking, which makes me terrified. But usually it's every 3 months that we go and we do scans, and then we do labs every 30 days.
Okay.
So they keep a really close eye on everything to watch tumor markers and just lots of doctor visits and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's so it's been a couple years now.
Yeah.
Since this all went down. And how long was he in the hospital for?
A long time. We spent the first 2 months after diagnosis in the hospital, getting just all the testing to confirm the diagnosis and what stage, and to get a line placed in his chest, and just to start chemo and do all the treatments that were necessary to just start fighting against the cancer. Then you have like breaks in between, so you go to the hospital roughly like 5 days every month. Unless, of course, there's complications, then you stay longer. So there was definitely times like that. But yeah, we spent a lot of time in the hospital for the last 2 years. So his biggest question was always just, when can we play next? Like, when can we get out of here?
Yeah.
So
Parker, what are you going to do, or what do you want to do when you grow up? You like sports?
I want to play football or move to Hawaii and surf.
Good options.
Good
Good
goals,
options. What about both? You think you can do both?
I don't know.
You could try.
Too
Right?
much money.
Yeah, it costs too much money. Well, not if you play football.
Yeah,
then,
right.
then you can do both. It's okay. No worries. I know this is. And how old is Parker right now?
How old are you?
9.
You're 9. So I have a daughter that's 9, by the way. So I'm very familiar with this age range.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a crazy thing to think. He was what, 7 years old?
6.
He was 6 when this went down. I mean, for parents out there, when you have a 6-year-old, I mean, that's like the golden years, right? This is when the kids are the cutest they're going to be. They're almost like little humans. They're doing all these things. They're saying all these things. And then to find that out must have just been a crusher.
Yeah, I mean, this diagnosis is something that rocks your world, and I feel like you'll never be the same after, dealing with a situation like this. But I think that it also gives you the platform that you need to do something positive with it. You can choose, to use it to your advantage, I guess. There's a lot of good that's come out of a bad situation, and for that I'm really proud, and I'm really proud of Parker because he's just always stood brave from the very first day. And when we were scared and having to look to him for hope, it was pretty awesome because he was always positive and always saying, like, Mom, look how many people are praying for us. We're going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. So
I think a lot of it has to do with results, frankly. Maintaining that positive attitude, that positive vibe, and the good energy.
Yep.
Parker, did you have any kind of ceremony? Did you say bye-bye to the cancer for the for the last time? Did you do that, or have any kind of party whenever you were like, it's gone, I'm cancer-free?
We did a Make-A-Wish, and we went to Hawaii, and I got to swim with a dolphin. I caught a waffle, and we got to have free surf lessons, and we got to stay at, what was the place called?
Alani.
And there was lots of really cool water slides.
We've had a lot of parties.
That is
There's a
awesome.
lot of celebrations.
Well, speaking of parties, you have an event coming up. It's a 5K.
Yep.
June 25th.
Yes.
That's to raise awareness and to raise funds for this, right? For Team Parker for Life.
Yeah, June 25th, Mission Trails Regional Park. We're going to have a family 5K, and everyone can come. It's for all ages. We have a sign up on our website, which is listed on the screen, and you can go there, sign up your whole family, and come out for a day of fun. There's a ton of free giveaways, and it's basically to raise awareness and to give more funding to childhood cancer that's greatly needed.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, this is great stuff. Marcy, thank you so much for being on today. Really incredible story, and it just shows you that, first of all, the power of positive thinking, right, Parker? That's number one. First and foremost, you got to know you're going to win if you're going to win, right?
That's right.
And you won. You won a big battle, my friend. So that's quite a big deal, which I think now, right? Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a battle that not everyone wins. And this is why the awareness element is so important. So join us June 25th for the 5K. It's in Santee, Mission Trails Regional Park, right?
Yes.
And anyone can come. Kids will be there. It's on a trail, so you're not going to be running in the street or anything like that. Just good family fun to raise awareness and raise money for this great cause. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you for having
Really,
us.
really appreciate it. It's great to have you. Parker, thanks for coming, man.
You're welcome.
Congratulations to you, my friend. You're inspiring a lot of people today.
Thank you.
Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else. Commercial free.
Welcome to the Real Estate Debate, where we debate the hottest topics in San Diego real estate. Let's meet today's panelists. Our co-host for today is the Vice President of Cornerstone Mortgage Group, Sean Cahan. Our first guest from the Nager Group at Keller Williams Realty, Michael Nager. Guest number 2, San Diego's favorite son and real estate advisor with Coldwell Banker, Martin Correa. And guest number 3, the co-founder of Tilt and King Real Estate, Katie King.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the awesome introduction for everybody, and welcome to the Real Estate Debate. Sean is our only returning real estate debater, so welcome, the three of you, for the first time. Let's jump right into the very first topic, which is investors who own a lot of property should consider selling it now, before we see the next downturn in San Diego real estate. Tell us why you agree or disagree, and why. Michael, starting with you.
You know, I kind of agree and disagree with that question, because I've been noticing a lot of the investors that I've been working with right now currently are actually getting their property on the market, especially if they bought at a specific time. For example, if they bought in like 2005, 2006, when the market was really high, we're finally getting back to those prices. And a lot of investors are tired of being landlords, so they're finally dumping their property and actually getting it on the market. And then also all the investors I've been working with that have bought their property in 2009, 2010 when the property started increasing. Now they have a lot of equity in their property, so we're definitely seeing a lot of investors dump the homes.
Sounds like you agree then.
I do agree.
I didn't hear the disagree part.
Well, I disagree in certain aspects where there's a lot of investors that are buying, before the market did shift and increase in 2009, and they're definitely seeing the equity, but we're also coming closer to a shift for this year. So I don't see where I got the disagree part then.
Okay, so you don't disagree.
So it's a no.
No, he agrees. I agree and disagree.
Ladies and gentlemen, he agrees.
He agrees.
I agree.
Final answer. He agrees. Okay, Katie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree for the most part. I feel like, hey, we're in this market right now where it's a seller's market. They're going to get top dollar for their house or for their property. And so what I think is there's a lot of buyers out there and there's not enough inventory. So how do we get more inventory? We have people like them who are thinking about maybe selling and saying, please do, because there's a lot of people out there that want to buy and want to get in this market. And so we can't really do anything about the market, about it turning, about it going up and down. All we can do is supply more houses. The only part where I disagree would be if they were obviously for their personal reasons. If they're making good money renting it out and they're happy with their cash flow, then obviously if it was my own mother, I would say, Mom, if you're making a substantial enough money that's actually paying your bills, then don't do it, because that obviously would not be benefiting them personally. But for the overall majority of the population of people, please go ahead and put your properties on the market and give us more properties for people who are wanting to buy in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So she agrees.
Yeah,
as well.
I'll say 90%.
Okay, 90% agree.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take that. Martin, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of a different perspective. And I guess the first thing would be to understand your client's needs and make an assessment from there. I've always been a big fan of something similar to Donald Sterling, past owner of the Clippers, both San Diego and LA. He was known to keep his properties forever, never sold anything, and acquire wealth from the perspective of just continue to buy, to buy, and to buy. So if you see a downturn coming down, I guess my opinion would be prepare for it. How do you prepare? Reducing debt or improving your overhead by mitigating the overhead or costs that you may have at that individual investment. So my feeling would be to hold, and then at that time wait for 18 months, 2 years, when we're right stuck in the middle of that downturn, and then I would start acquiring further.
Okay, so more macro perspective of, hey, this is about market share. If you really want to own something, own a lot of it, and you have an opportunity to take more of it, then you should look at that.
Right.
Interesting. So technically then you disagree.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Cahan, Mortgage Geek, Sean Cahan. All right. So you shocked the world last time you were in here when we talked about the Big Short, and you said, hey, listen, it's coming. We can see it on the mortgage side. Debt to income ratios are getting higher and higher and higher. The average debt to income ratio per borrower is just going up and up and up. There's, this is fragile. It's much more fragile than people realize. They're starting to sell CDOs again. They're calling them something else, tranches, to something ridiculous.
It was ended with a tranche.
Yeah, tranche, something tranche that they're calling these things. I know you're a big investor as well.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So you've I know where you stand on this because you've come on the show before and said, in fact, before you did it, you said, I'm just going to sell all my properties. Have you sold them all?
Yes.
They're all gone?
Well, no, I have 3 commercial properties, but they're listed right now for sale too,
So you obviously agree with this. Tell us why you agree with the idea of investors selling their properties right at this moment.
I'm going to go back just 1 second and go to a book that I read called How to Build a Real Estate Empire. And one of my clients was a section of the book. And so what I did was I started reading through it, and then one of his colleagues, a huge real estate investor, I think he's worth like $160 million, they said at the very end, what did you do wrong? And he said, the only thing that I ever did wrong was that I sold some of my properties, right? So going back to Martin and agreeing with Martin and saying, who are we listening to? We're talking to a person that owned the Clippers. Yeah, he's never going to sell. But the average American needs that equity and to build their net worth. So if we're taking it out of content and going with a mass majority of individuals, we don't have the money just to continue to buy real estate and to buy real estate and to buy real estate. What we do is we, ride a wave. It goes up, we take our equity back out. Hopefully the market comes down a little bit. We go and buy more property. It goes up, we buy and we sell, and that's kind of our mode. Right now, I think that sometimes on the disagree side is that the rents are going up, and people that bought in 2010, 2011, 2012, they're really getting a really nice cap rate on their investment.
Right.
Just because it's gone up, they bought it low. But also at the same time, it would be nice to, hey, take our earnings, pay those capital gains tax. I mean, capital gains tax, what happens if it goes up? They're talking about it going up, right? Hey, I wouldn't mind paying 20%. I'm paying 20% on all my capital gains right now because I just want the cash. Because if something does come, I'm going to be in a better position. I always say you can never sell too early, you only can sell too late. And I think a lot of investors are holding on to it and saying, well, I'm getting a really good cap rate right now. Great, ride that cap rate. Cap rates have come down. Why don't you sell that thing at a high, price where everyone's like, hey, I'll pay $400 when this thing is only worth $350. Take that, pay your capital gains, and then hold on to the cash. So I say, I agree, sell it.
Well, I think too, we don't have much room to build new construction. So that's another complaint that we've been having in the market is where are we going to build? Because we need more inventory. Because with that said, that it's a seller's market right now. Prices for homes are pretty high, and the reason for that is we don't have enough supply. So, and we don't have room for new construction. So that's another thing that I agree too is that if you can sell it and if it's okay with you and you can make a little bit of profit personally for those investors, then why not be able to provide for people who are wanting to get into the market here in San Diego? And that'll actually help the market. It'll help prices go down a little bit.
It might, and I say also be prepared for a backup plan. Like if you sell and prices just keep going up for the next 3 to 5 years, what are you going to do with your money? Cash is giving you nothing. So have a backup plan of some sort. What else are you going to do? Right. Don't just expect that you're going to get it right. Maybe you'll be right 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now. Who knows? But if you're not, what are you going to do in the meantime, and what are you going to do as an alternative? I think it's important to look at the type of investor, obviously, in a situation like this. When we make a statement like, hey, should I sell my investment properties right now? If you have a property that's free and clear, you got a good tenant in there, they're writing you a check every month.
Right.
You may just want to hang on to that thing.
There's no cost of the asset.
Yeah.
And I would even go so far as there are people that count on that income, especially in the twilight of their career. So you really have to understand your client and their position where they are as far as their long-term plan. I still go back and look at some of the data. They're talking by 2040, we're still going to be short 25,000, 30,000 people as a result of the surge of people moving to San Diego. And again, I just think that is an investor's dream. Now, you also have to understand San Diego is comprised of submarkets. And not every market is going to speak in a manner where, so maybe downtown versus something more traditional like PB. Those are two different markets. And so those properties and those investment properties are going to behave differently. So I think you can't broad stroke it, Again, I'm still, and believe it or not, even for my first-time home buyers, I tell them, look, in an ideal scenario, let's see if we can keep this home. And the next one you buy is for you, but let's keep that and let's build that portfolio. Let's look long-term. So that's kind of some of the insight.
Makes sense. All right, great stuff. Time to jump into topic number 2. So that was more for sellers. This one is more for buyers. Although rents are going up a lot, it's still easier to find a good deal on a rental than it is to find a good deal on buying a home. Agree or disagree? Michael?
Actually, I disagree. I'm working with a lot of buyers that are tenants currently right now, and when we run the numbers, I mean, you can actually buy a property with 3.5% down FHA, and your mortgage with your property tax and interest and insurance is almost less than what you would pay for rent. So, you're not having to come up with 20% down conventional on some of these purchases. So, rental rates are going up. I was reading an article the other day where they're projecting by 2018 rents are going to go up another $200 to $300 a month in certain areas, and average renter will spend around 40% of their income just on rent. So if you're going to spend that much income on your rent, might as well put it towards your principal and own the property. So when I'm running the numbers with my clients, it's definitely a lot better to buy than to rent currently right now.
Okay, makes sense. Kate?
I mean, I agree with that too. Obviously, if you've got the income and you've got the stability and you're pre-approved and you have the down payment to do so, go for it. But I think more the question is are people out there able to get a better deal on a rental versus buying right now? Again, we know we're in a seller's market. We know that prices are high. So with rentals, they're also going up too. And so I kind of feel like there's some investors that don't live in San Diego that might live outside of the market, or some investors that own properties here that don't really know the trend of what's going on with the rental increase. So when I work with buyers, they say, well, find us a good deal. It's like, it's tough to find a good deal because there's not really good deals in the market to buy a property because there's no good deals right now. But with that said, with rent, a lot of times investors have been renting their properties for years and years and years and depend on a certain amount of income per month. And they're just wanting to keep that because they're making $1,000 a month and that's paying the bills that they need to get paid, and they're happy. And so sometimes it is more of a better shot to be able to find a better deal on a rental because those investors don't know what's going on. Where people that are selling their houses right now are usually selling it with agents who know the market, who are going to tell them how to price the property. And the small margin of people that are not selling with agents price it usually too high because, as we know, sellers who price their own homes see their houses like their child. It's the most unique, it's the most special, it's the prettiest, it's better than anything else on the whole block. And so they're always pricing it, usually tend to price it too high and then have to go to an agent to help them because they can't sell it most of the time. It's definitely obviously better to buy every single time because you're paying your own mortgage and you're not paying anyone else's mortgage, and then you're investing in your own assets. So yeah.
Makes sense.
And then to add to that, I think it's a lot of landlords don't have an idea what the rental rate is in that area.
Yeah.
So a lot of the landlords are not keeping up to date with what's renting. Especially if they have a condo complex in a specific area.
They haven't caught window.
They haven't caught up. They haven't even caught up with the market going up.
Recent.
Yeah, it's been so recent.
Yeah.
And I was dealing with a client the other day where he's renting at $400 below market.
Right.
So, I mean, they're just not up to date with what the rental rates are.
Yeah.
So
makes
But
sense.
I go back to your point, and you mentioned something about instability, and buying a home provides stability. At least my feeling is with interest rates being low, prices even going up on an upward trend, I think it is still easier and smarter to buy if you are in that position to do so. And I'm thinking for the long term and the fact that interest rates are low. Are you along that lines as far as the interest rate? I'm looking, yes, that's a good sign. So okay, that's good.
Yes.
He's
okay,
Yeah, I like where you're going. Continue.
Keep talking. That's what that look means. Well, Sean, I think this is kind of, I don't know if this is in your wheelhouse or not, but on the rental side, you see people coming from renters and turning into buyers, but you've also owned investment properties, so you know what it's like, to have renters involved and even, what do we call them, vacation rentals, in fact. So do you agree or disagree that it's easier to find a good rental versus a good home to buy?
It really kind of depends on what area that you're looking in right now. I think that a lot of the time, if you're looking at like the beach areas or downtown, you're going to be able to find something that is a little bit more reasonably priced compared to actually owning. If you want to own, in like Mission Beach or Pacific Beach or, Mount Soledad or La Jolla, compared to what your actual rent cost is, the rent is normally like the better or the easier route to go. If you're, again, like, those are only very sub-markets like what Martin was talking about. But if you're talking about like on a mass and saying like a generalization of, is it easier to buy? I think that if we look at any real estate ever on a long-term basis, buying a primary residence is a fantastic direction because that is your home, that's your stability, you can stay there, no one's going to be increasing or decreasing. I don't really sell 5-1 and 7-1 arms for the simple fact that I say, if you want a 5-1 arm, then you have to show me how you're going to pay this off in 5 years. And if you don't have that, I'm going to offer you a 30-year fix. And if you don't want to go with me because of that, then here's my competitor. Just because I stand behind my product a lot.
Good for you.
I think I probably only did about 4 or 5 actual 5-1 and 7-1 arms, and every single person could guarantee that they could pay it off in their first 5 or 7 years.
I see what you're saying about the La Jolla thing, though, and some of those bigger markets, the Del Mars and stuff like that, where it's 1.3 million for anything.
1.7 million, 5 days on the market. I can go and rent that house for $6,000 a month, but my mortgage payment, I'm putting down $500,000, and I got $10,000 or $12,000 every single month coming out of my pocket. That's a lot different. I could have taken that $300,000 or $500,000 and gone over to a couple investments or a small apartment complex or like small retail or something like that and got a better cap rate while I'm actually paying rent at somebody else's house. It really just kind of depends on what you're looking at, but I think on like a not investment but a primary, I think that is always a great idea. But the problem with our society is that as soon as we make $50,000, we want to sell.
Right.
And if we just had that longevity and said, let's not sell at $50,000, let's get that thing out 10. I want to be in my house for 10 or 15 years. That's really where we start to capitalize on our investment. You get for first $250,000 for free or $500,000 if you're married. Well, hey, max that out. But if you reach the $500,000, sell and start over. It's the only tax-free. So those baby boomers that kept them for like 30 years, I made $1 million. That's great. You got taxed on $500,000 of that. You should have got to $500,000, taken your $500,000 for free, and started over again.
Woo! Fantastic point, Sean. Great stuff. Really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for your time. It's a great real estate discussion.
Yeah, awesome.
Stick around for next time on the Real Estate Debate, where we debate the hottest topics in San Diego real estate. We'll see you then.
Hey, great show, guys. That's a wrap. Jade, what's your schedule look like? Do you mind breaking down the set?
Not today, Derek. I'd love to, but there's waves out there. I gotta go. Angela? Nikki?
Yeah, I gotta go beat traffic. And I think Nikki's making something up there.
Look at this. We did this. We did all of this.